Good evening and welcome to another edition of Live Green TV with Pat Foundation. Tonight I have got global company Diebold Nixdorf. There's a little joke behind there, which we shall say a bit later on in the show. But I've got Scott Laney, who's all the way from the US, is dialed in tonight, and we've got Danny. Well, I know him as Danny, but it's Daniel Williams, and he's from the UK. So they're going to talk today. We're going to find out a little bit more about who they are and what they do, and find out the linkage is to the veterans community. So stay tuned. It's going to be a very exciting show. So I'll start with you, Scott, in the US. How are you doing?
Good evening.
It's coming up for Thanksgiving, isn't it?
It is. It is tomorrow. So lots of turkey tomorrow.
Oh, are you all prepared?
Never. We'll be prepared tomorrow, though.
Is it going to be a big family? Over here in the UK, it's usually families get together, but do you do the same in the US?
Yes, it'll be my family, extended family, lots of turkey and American football. So.
It sounds fab. And so you're in the UK leg for DN. So tell everybody at home what your job role is there.
For me, I lead the community banking space for the US. So I work with a lot of the smaller community banks and credit unions, making sure they get the right service levels from us, and we make sure that all their issues are resolved, whether it's software, hardware. We have all types of managed services and things like that we do throughout the country to make sure that our customers are taken care of. So I lead a team that does that across the U.S.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. And obviously, they're a huge global company that deal with a lot of chains, that your likes of M&S, Marks and Spencer's, Aldi and Lidl, sort of over here, well, all over Europe, UK and beyond. So Daniel, I'm going to say, it sounds weird calling you Daniel now. So Danny, how are you? Obviously, you're over here in the UK with myself, not up here in Yorkshire, but whereabouts are you?
Hi. First off, Gail, if you can hear, I'm sure you could take over if I drop out again. But I'm Dan Williams. I've been with Diebold Nixdorf for just over 2.5
years, I think that is.
Yeah, I'll pick up for Danny and he's been here for a couple of years, and he works in the security and making sure that all of our customers, and Gail, you mentioned our presence in Europe. We actually work with 24 of the top 25 retailers in Europe, so we have a very large and Danny works with those customers, both banking and retail, to make sure that our connection with these customers is secure, and we take care of all of their needs for transactions, whether it's banking or retail transactions.
Wow, absolutely impressive. Thank you for that, Scott. So it's super exciting, that I've got you guys on the Green TV in the show tonight. We've done a lot of preparation behind the scenes, and we've been having talks for the past year, actually, throughout COVID, myself with the DNN team. So it's a great and exciting opportunity, and obviously I'm going to lead on to the veterans community. So my aim was to establish a good working relationship and show the benefits to the global companies and the corporate world in employing the veteran community, which we've had a talk about off air. Now, both Danny and Scott are both ex-forces personnel themselves, so it will be great to talk to you guys both. Hopefully we'll get Danny back at some point, but it'll be great to talk to you both, and obviously that transition. So Scott, you're ex-Navy, so I've been working with the guys for the past couple of years now, and so you have different terminologies to some of Danny, he's an ex-soldier, so different terminology. So if Danny's listening, he's trying to log back in now. So I think in terms of when you make a cup of tea, that's me being very English and very Yorkshire there. I think Navy it's a wet, and soldier it's a brew, isn't it? So you've got your different terminology there. So we've got Danny back now, but Scott, just tell me a bit about your time in the Navy and what your role was there and how long you served, etc., and when you left.
So I joined a long time ago in 1986, and spent the first year or so in training, and ended up serving on a ballistic missile submarine as a fire control technician, and my job was to program and target nuclear missiles. And so it was very interesting work, very challenging work. And I did that for about 4 years, making patrols across the Atlantic most of the time, and actually did some joint exercises with the British Navy in my time. And then I spent the last 3 years in my service as an instructor at a training facility in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating. So when you actually, well, we'll talk a little bit to you, Danny, now we've got you back in, hopefully signal permitting. So let's just go, thanks for that, Scott. So Danny, just tell us, we were just leading on to obviously your job role within DNN, and obviously you're an ex-soldier, so tell us a bit more about yourself in that sense.
Yeah, so you can tell I was ex-Royal Corps of Signals in the Army, so the signals have been letting me down today, this evening. I joined Diebold Nixdorf 2.5 years ago, and I'm working the security and compliance team. I don't know, I think Scott probably mentioned to you what we do across the globe in terms of providing services for people in retail and banking.
Yes.
And basically, if ever you go to certain ATMs or if you go to certain self-service checkouts within some of the retailers within the UK, when you're making your transaction, it's my responsibility to make sure that they stay compliant and secure, really. Yeah. So all of the things behind compliance and security is what our team is kind of managing for the whole process, really.
Absolutely. And it's come apparent to me, obviously, speaking with, people behind the scenes and management along with you guys, that your transferable skills from leaving the forces, are really well catered for in this line of work, so it's been quite an easy transition. So I don't know who wants to go first, but basically tell me, that you've been used to, say, Scott, for example, you're on your submarine, you're with your comrades, and then you leave that environment to then go into the civilian life, to then work, earning money, paying the bills, putting the roof above your head for yourself and your family. How did you find that, and how did Diebold? I'm saying Diebold, it's Diebold, isn't it? Danny, you're gonna tell me that, aren't you?
Never say die.
I never say die. That's a great one. I'm doing this on purpose, viewers, actually, because we've had a little bit of a joke behind the scenes. But yes, I mean, how have they helped as a company to, for you to fit in and do that? Go on, ask Scott first, and then Danny, you jump in straight after, please.
So I think the biggest thing that I would say is when you're in the military, particularly years ago, it's a very structured, very command and control environment. And as you come out of the military and transition, not all companies are structured that way. And you find yourself having to be more involved in decision making, even if you're not the leader of a particular organization. So I think that's one thing that has helped me in that transition, is becoming more vocal and becoming more involved in all of the decisions that are made, even if you're not the leader or the final decision maker. And one other thing that I think helped me coming out of the military is like I said, I spent 4 years making patrols on a submarine with 150 people from all over the world. And you learn very quickly that you learn how to get along with people that are different from you.
Exactly. That's a really great point. And it's, you know, I mean, I don't know why there's so much of a divide between the ex-forces and the civilian world. I mean, I'm a civilian myself and found, you know, your world, my world can cohabitate very, very well, and we can all work together, you know, under the same cause. So, Danny, you tell me your take on obviously your transition from being from the forces. Sorry, just my signal went then. We're not having much luck tonight.
I think I did 11 years in Royal Corps Signals, and it was all, as Scott mentioned, it was all structured in terms of the communications, and it gave me gave us all some real foundations in communication, in terms of you had to understand what the information you were dealing with, who needs to know it, and when do they need to know it by. And so, you know, in the environments I used to work in, we would have certain pieces of information that needed to go only to certain people, and you'd stop doing what you're doing with one kind of message to send another one, depending on the classification and the priority of those messages. So when I first came, I got out because I saw these computer things. It's an awful long time ago that I got out, I've got to say. I joined the Army. I went to Army Apprentice College in Harrogate in 1978, and I got out in '89. So I did 11 years. But the reason I got out was because I saw these computery things coming along, and I thought, oh, if you can make those work and communicate securely, that would be quite cool.
Quite useful.
So I've been doing that. But the first thing I noticed was, you know, communications across the company, everything was the same. Everything was just communication. So board minutes would be transmitted alongside cakes in the kitchen kind of messages, you know,
I see,
which really took me aback at first. But the other side of that, it was, as to Scott's point, you have a voice. And as long as you use it correctly, you're able to share your experiences, and people will take things on board. So when you start to talk about privacy, and you know, it's taken a long time for the corporate world to catch up in a way with where we were in terms of privacy, but now it's a really big thing. Security is a really big thing, whereas before it was a trusted environment, whereas we operated previously in a zero trust environment. The corporate world was a trusted environment, but now people have proven that actually it's a really good idea to work in a non-trust environment. And by that, I don't mean you don't trust your cohorts, your colleagues and everything, the complete opposite. But you don't just assume stuff. And so when you're communicating now, people are learning more and more in the corporate world what we already knew in the communications world within the military about you know, prioritization, classification, and taking care of the information that you've got. So
absolutely. I mean, sorry, I'm just going to sort of jump in and say that I've noticed myself in, you know, with all the different variety, all the different circumstances, having worked, you know, with the Green Task Force for the past year, with the PAT Foundation for the past couple of years, and working in that environment with the veterans, that the transferable skills, you know, you have a can-do attitude, that it's kind of second to none, really. Your attention to detail is, you know, and I'm not saying that, you know, the civilian world doesn't have that as well. You know, there are very good, diligent workers out there, but there seems to be a common sort of theme. I've been on a massive campaign for the past year. There seems to be a stigma that every personnel that leaves the forces are damaged, that, you know, and it's not a case at all. Yes, there are some issues that come out, and there's some things that, you know, that there's a lot of talk about PTSD, the mental health issues, and there's that, which, you know, is great. You know, that's I've done many shows on, you know, and getting that message across, but the underlying messages we've getting an influx of guys like yourself and girls that I just need to go to that next level transition, come out naturally, and then transition into normal world. And they sometimes get overlooked a little bit, especially with the large corporations. So it's quite refreshing that Diebold, DN, recognize that, and they really take ownership and appreciate the different diversity. So yes, that's off my soapbox now. So let's get back to our chat.
So, Gail, that's a great point. You talked about, the PTSD and the mental health aspects are very real, but the military members are put under pressure most of the time that they're in the service. So when you come out and you're in a civilian environment, that pressure does not affect you in the same way. You're used to that pressure, and it doesn't become stress or overstressed because you're not used to handling that pressure. So I think that's one thing that veterans bring to the table that we don't think about a lot. There's a lot of skills, but that pressure that they can handle in high stress situations is something we need to take into account.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Scott. Yeah, really, really good point there. So that's, in terms of, with DNA, and it's a great, obviously, it's a great company to work for. You both, I mean, the American side, it's a different culture you've got over there in the US. Scott, you get a lot more support from, I know the US government are very looks after the veterans. Gosh, I'm going to get all political here. Danny, you probably agree with me. A little bit more than they do in the UK, and seems to be more support out there. The job, for example, I'm doing here over in the UK, I would be a lot more supported over in the US. Than obviously is. So maybe we could unite the nations somewhere along the way, and I know Scott and I want to do something to try and make that merge happen a little bit more for the UK. So watch this space, everybody. But yeah, I mean, Danny, do you want to add more in terms of the UK and obviously with working and how the opportunity that you were provided and how it can help other veterans in your position?
Yeah, I was quite lucky in my military career. I did 2 years apprentice college, and then I volunteered for a special communications role, which lasted about, the selection course was over a year. But once you're through it, you got given roles where you travelled around the world doing comms and liaising with people that are not just military. So we liaise with government officials, civilians. So I kind of got lucky in that I could see environments outside of what I was working with. So that was quite lucky. So the transition out from the military into the bank was quite good, and I joined a bank at the time. They made me very welcome, but I was the only ex-squaddy or military person. So when so they didn't really know what to make of me until they got to know me. But once they did get to know me, it's always really positive. And to echo the points that Scott was making just now, when we would hit a roadblock, it wouldn't be a case of, oh, we can't do something. It's, well, okay, what do we do to move on? How do we get around the roadblock, sort of thing? And that's the same with all the guys I meet. We've got networking engineers here now that are ex-Royal Signals, ex-military, and they treat with things the same. If they're working on a networking issue and it's just not straightforward, they'll keep working at it until it's finished and resolved, rather than just letting somebody else escalate the problem elsewhere. Certainly, when I joined Diebold Nixdorf, the abiding thing that I came across when I joined, it was I went round to all the functional managers and said, look, what works well with security, what works less well, what would you like to keep, or what would you like to get rid of? And the first thing I found was that everybody had security awareness front of mind, which was really refreshing for me, because all of the companies I've been to over the last 10, 15 years, security was a bolt-on, a pain that was in the way, that kind of thing. Whereas here, everybody wanted it. So that enabled me to sort of say, right, as you're security aware now, and the biggest problem you have is, intense pressure when it comes to audit time, why don't we blend out security in terms of business as usual, and we make sure that we are doing little mini audits throughout the year, so that come the big audit, it's not a big stress. And that's worked brilliantly over the last couple of years. But for me, the refreshing thing was not having to sell and market the concept of a secure posture towards everybody. Here, they already had it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So guys, so that's great, and great answers, and thank you. I'm sure that's given our viewers a great insight. And if there's veterans watching this tonight that are looking for employment opportunities, they can get in contact with myself, and we can, engineer something to, get you a job role. This is kind of form that alliance and that partnership, that bridge, I guess. So, that's a great overview, and I'm probably given, a lot of ex-forces people out there, thinking, actually, which career direction shall I go into? So tell me we'll start with you, Scott. So tell me a funny story then, transitioning into civilian life. Have you got any that you can think of offhand? So obviously, I'm going to say there is a slightly different culture, in terms of your sense of humour. It tends to be quite dark, I've noticed. I've been on quite a few tree planting sessions with the Green Task Force and various things. And yes, I'm quite thick-skinned, as I say, and some of the things have sort of made me blush and sort of had to second guess. But Scott, is there any sort of funny stories that you can think of in terms of you've been working with the civvies and it's really sort of tickled you?
It's funny. So I talked earlier about pressure, and my first job after I left the Navy, I was working for a company in North Carolina, and we were making fiber optic cable. You might be familiar with Alcatel. It's obviously big in Europe. And a young lady that was working there was very upset because of all the pressure we were under. And I asked her what she meant. And she said, well, we have a goal every shift we have to make. And I said, that's not pressure. I said, and this is when I was younger and not nearly as polished. And I said, let me explain to you what pressure is. Pressure is when you have 3 minutes to fix a hole in a seawater valve, or 150 people will die. That's pressure. And he did not like that answer very much. But yeah, that was one of my first exposures to the difference between military and civilian life.
Absolutely, and that's a great perspective to put on that. When we have a sort of grumbles and moans, we was moaning tonight, obviously, about the internet, and obviously we've had a few. It's managed to come through now, so we're fine. But ordinarily that would put pressure and put people as backup, but we soldier on, as they say. So, Dan, I'm going to ask you the same question. Can you think of a funny story?
Well, I don't know if it's funny or not. People might be.
There you go. That's the military sense of humour.
But when I went on, I joined one of the banks, and we were working in the operations centre, on the network operations centre, and there was a shift of 4 guys, and we'd do 2 earlies, 2 days, 2 lates, and then 4 days off. And when we were doing the earlies, a couple of them were golfers, and they said, "Oh, do you play golf?" I said, "Yeah, okay." So they invited me along, and we teed off at this golf course, and we were walking along the first fairway, and literally I'd never met these guys out of work at all, and it's the first hole, and up on the left-hand side there was a little bit of a commotion, a couple of animals. It turns out that there was a couple of foxes or something was killing a poor little rabbit.
Oh,
and we went up to it. I know, it's horrible. We went up to it, and this rabbit was alive, but only just, and it had claret hanging out everywhere, and
Oh,
not particularly pleasant. So
oh dear.
so the humane thing was to put it out of its misery. So when we were in the military, I was taught how to catch and skin rabbits. So I
Right.
literally held the rabbit by its head and used its body weight, swung it round, broke its neck, and killed it outright. And I
Oh.
turned round, and these three were looking at me like I was a monster.
Yeah, I can
And
appreciate.
for me, this was the humane thing to do to a poor rabbit that was beyond. But these guys had never seen me before, and they'd never seen anything like that. And it was like, oh my God, what have we got? So I don't know if that's funny or absolutely gross, but
I suppose that like, I'm having trauma issues from childhood from watching Watership Down now, and all the bunnies
Yeah.
dying. So no, I get how that would be a shock factor, I guess. So look, guys, it's been great having you on the show, and it's given us a real good insight, and and thank you so much. I'm sure it's going to help a lot of veterans out there looking for employment, now and in the future, and sort of helping inform and hoping to create that bridge, that the stigma that veterans that are unemployable, or they're damaged, or they're not going to be part of the workforce. So I think my mission, working alongside with you guys and other companies I'm working with, that we're going to try and kind of quash that stigma. So just before I let you go, because I know you've got preparations, Scott, for Thanksgiving. I love saying that. I love Christmas here in the UK. I mean, I don't know if you're big on Christmas, Dan, but I have to. They're not so younger children now, but I still make the big fuss, go out with all the big dinner and get excited. It's freezing cold here in the UK, and it's dark and murky, and kind of adds to the Christmas feel. But before I let you go, so I'll start with you, Scott. I want to know your favourite book, and it doesn't have to be all time, it could be just right now. Favourite film and your favourite song currently.
Wow. So I would say favorite song is probably Kashmir by Led Zeppelin.
Good choice.
Big Led Zeppelin fan.
Yeah, good choice.
Favorite book, I'm currently reading a book by Brene Brown called Dare to Lead. It's actually my second time through the book, but it's a very, very great book for anybody that wants to be a leader and just improve their lives. And what was it? The third one was the favorite movie?
Yeah.
I would say probably the movie Rudy.
Really?
It's about a young man who wants to play college football and to his dreams. So
a good feel-good factor. Right. That's very, very inspiring. Well, thank you for that. It's always nice to sort of find insight on. I always find that people have very different taste sometimes to what they do in the sort of business world. So same with you, Dan. So book, film, and music.
I've got to say, for the film, I'm trying to remember the name of it now, the Michael Caine film with that Zulu.
Zulu. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Actually, you sound a bit like Michael Caine. You sound...
Not a lot of people say that.
You do actually. Sorry. Yes.
Song, I think. I don't think I can be. Probably. I don't know. I'll have to.
There's loads. Loads.
Yeah, I can't even think of them at the moment. I'm freezing. I'm trying to remember it, but I can't think.
No worries. And what about book? Are you into books? Do you read much?
I used to read an awful lot, particularly away on detachments, and until a few years ago. But a couple of years ago, I discovered YouTube, which is much easier.
Yes.
So yeah, there are a few books I really enjoy, but I couldn't pull out one now. I know it doesn't look particularly good, but
no.
Something I wanted to bring up was about we have a recruitment fair coming up in the UK for veterans. I don't know if you need to know or want to know about that at all.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm working with the team with that, so we shall mention that on another. We've got quite a few marketing campaigns, so yeah, this was kind of the liaison that obviously we have. So we'll be watch this space. Yes, we shall be working behind the scenes and doing that. So that's coming very, very soon. It's been pushed back a couple of weeks, but yes, that's coming there, Dan. So thanks for that. So watch your space, right? Unless there's anything, I'm dying for you to say
Just,
the
yeah.
film now.
Okay. One more thing, you mentioned how you wanted to join US, UK, and really, and you know, more of a joint venture. And Danny and I are working on that within Diebold. We just met, you know, back in August because we started a veterans employee resource group within the company, and I'm the champion of that for the globe. And
Wow.
we're that's one of the things that really we're hoping to, you know, recognize our veterans, help recruit our veterans,
Yeah.
and then do a lot of work within the community outreach, you know, whether you're an employee or not, just to help out.
That sounds perfect. And I think that's what we had a conversation too about, Scott. So yeah, super excited about doing that. And yeah, definitely we should be getting that off the ground as soon as. Why wait is what I say. Why wait? Let's seize the day. Seize the day. So thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. We shall be editing this. I know it's live right now, but we shall edit it, and well, we won't be taking anything out. We'll the fans, you know, your logos, and you know, sort of jazz it up a little bit, and then it will go out to all the forums and all the social media, into the cosmos, as I say, the powers that be, and we'll get that word out there. You know, that's the aim of the game, is to work together, get the word out there, and make a difference. That's kind of what the whole plan is. So thanks ever so much for joining us. Have a lovely Thanksgiving. Daniel will have a great Christmas. It's sort of in the UK, well, not together, but you in your house, mine in mine, but in the UK is what I was saying. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. So thanks ever so much. Bye everyone. It's bye from me, Gail Acaster.